Okay, hello amateurs, and welcome to this first Facebook Live, the first hot topic from the Amateur Rugby Podcast, recording live on Facebook on Saturday, 25th of July, 2020. And let's go and see who our mystery guest is today. Mystery guest, reveal yourself. Ta-da! Hello, Stuart, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Tim. Thank you for welcoming me so openly this morning, so warmly, and so yeah, great to be here.
Good man. This is Stuart Lock, everybody. Stuart, would you like to just give a 30-second introduction? Tell the people who you are.
I'm Stuart Lock. I'm 42 years of old, 32 years of age. I live in Bayonne in the south of France currently. Born in South Wales. Lived in London for a period of time, which and I became friends. A very keen rugby player and general sportsman from a very young age. A fervent supporter of Penarth Rugby Club in South Wales and the Welsh national team. And obviously a big supporter of the old Colfians in London. And now I'm a big supporter of Aviron Bayonnais in the southwest of France, where I currently reside.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great stuff. And what is the hot topic that we are going to discuss today?
The hot topic we're going to discuss today are lions.
All three of them?
Maybe. It could be even more. I think it's almost, you might say, ad infinitum. You can keep going with that. I know some, after a couple of Guinness, would definitely support that theory.
For sure. Okay, but specifically what we're here to chat about is the fact that the Lions Tour has been fully confirmed now for next year, the original dates and everything that's associated with that. So first of all, are you happy that it's been confirmed and on those dates specifically?
Personally, yes, I'm happy that they've kept those dates. Whether those dates prove to be the most beneficial with the current state of the rugby calendar and what's going on, who's to say? There's the thought of moving an event of that size in 2021 currently seems a crazy thought. So yeah, I'm pleased that it's going to happen. Then with my old teacher hat on, I was always very happy that it was going to fall for the very first time that teachers could attend. Because generally the matches happen at the back end of the school term, and school teachers would have found it very difficult to get out. So yeah, that was one of the things I was excited for. A few of my ex-colleagues I know who were really keen to sort of jump on board. So shifting dates to later in the year, October, would have made that a little bit tricky for them.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know that about the school teachers actually. Is it a little bit earlier this year then? Is that what it is compared to previous tours?
They moved it a little bit earlier. I suspect not thinking of teachers. I think they moved it for other sort of commercial reasons. But yeah, no, it's a little bit earlier this year.
Okay. I mean, I'm obviously glad that the tour's been confirmed and it's going to go ahead. That's great to hear. My initial thoughts were that it was, I've got this, I really want this global calendar to materialize. And I thought maybe that with the tour not moving, that global calendar is going to be put on the back burner again for another period of time. But I also understand that the Lions is so much about the supporters, and moving it out from that summer window would mean a lot of supporters wouldn't be able to go. So, I've kind of got mixed feelings about it. I'm glad it's going ahead. I'm glad lots of people are going to be able to go still. But the whole global calendar thing might be a bit of a thing that's less good about that.
I think that the whole global calendar thing is still a discussion that's ongoing. Looking at the schedules that some of the players are about to undertake from August, obviously they're in high-level training at the minute. To be a rugby player in the next 12 months, a professional rugby player particularly, until we're talking about the Lions, is going to be extremely draining on them physically and mentally, especially those who have aspirations to be on those tours, particularly as we're talking about today, that Lions tour, which the door remains open for loads of people. That's one of my favourite things in the lead-up year to the Lions, is watching people who come out of nowhere and sort of grasp the nettle and then take that opportunity as it arises.
Yeah, the tour bolter. Have you got anybody that you've got your eye on that might be a bolter?
come out of nowhere. I'm not really. I think the next few weeks, watching who's got themselves post-COVID in a terrific shape physically and seeing when they're at. I think on the English side of things, the resources are huge. And as with modern rugby, I think it's injury more than anything else. If you could avoid injury or get injured at the right time, then possibly you could make a really good late run for it. I think that Freddie Burns' points about the Saracens players playing in the second tier of English rugby, if ever there was a year for that to happen, for one good thing to happen on the back of a bad thing, I think this is the year, really.
Yeah, 100%. And this idea of a bolter, I mean, it's not just for the tour either, is it, as well? So many examples of people coming through and making the test team when they weren't even part of the original touring squad in previous tours. I'm sure we'll see that again. There's every chance, isn't there?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I think that when you're a general rugby fan and a fan of the Lions, whether they come from Scotland, Ireland, or England or Wales, for me preferably, but it doesn't really bother me too much. It'd be good to see a few more Scottish players. I think the Finn Russell saga will be interesting to watch, of whether someone who's frozen out of the international stage can leapfrog back into the Lions. Who's to say? Especially with the added story with Gregor Townsend being the Mercurial fly half in the 1997 South African tour, just adds a little bit more to the story. Gets the Twitterati up there a little bit exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's have a quick chat about the fact that both sides, the Lions and South Africa, have put their heads together and come up with this combined sort of sponsorship deal and a combined behind the scenes video as well, which is going to take place this tour. What are your thoughts on that?
Growing up and enjoying, obviously, the Lions 97 is going to get mentioned a ridiculous amount in the lead-up, if it hasn't already been. That video remains an absolute go-to. I remember buying the 2001, I think Up Close and Personal, I think that was called as well. I enjoyed that, but nothing gets close to the 1997 Living with the Lions. Doing it as a combined thing, obviously it's a commercial decision. There are people who are going to make a lot of money off the back of it. Yes, there will be decisions on spreadsheets, etc., where that makes a lot of sense. But for me, I think staying in house with the Lions is more attractive to me as a Lions rugby fan and going on tour there. I think combining it, I think trying to do too many things at the same time. But again, it's another financial decision. I can't see what are the benefits really of doing that. You can have two DVDs. Obviously, people don't watch things on DVDs anymore. you can have two videos and you can watch them both. But I think combining it, I think it dilutes it somewhat, personally.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how they do it, whether they work together as one sort of company, essentially, to create the video and the story. I think I'd be tempted to have two separate camps almost and then put the story together afterwards. Yeah, I think that might provide a stronger kind of narrative, maybe.
I enjoyed the combination that I enjoyed the most. I think it was the Adidas advert that they filmed in London, where the Lions lined up against Tana Umanga's All Blacks in 2005. One of the great rugby adverts of all time. I remember that sort of collusion was fantastic when they got that together. But yeah, the whole just seems like it's almost you're trying to do too much. How much in one thing? How much are you trying to do in an hour and a half of footage? But yeah, I'm just excited by what comes really. But all that sort of stuff is secondary. I think the way media is today and how you get all that information to make something that's new and groundbreaking is hard, and that's why they're Living with the Lions. That people always refer back to that, because the insight you got 2 years after South Africa had won the World Cup, 2 years after the game had gone professional, and for those people around our age, give or take 5-10 years either side, it was such a pioneering time.
Yeah, pivotal, really pivotal. So let's talk about that. When did the Lions first kind of come on your radar? What were your first sort of memories of the Lions yourself?
Well, given that obviously we've had a little bit of a chat that we were going to do this beforehand, and I spent a little moment reflecting, and I remember 1989. I remember the pass that Rob Andrew hit a drop goal, which wasn't his worst, but definitely not his best. But Campisi's pass to Greg Marno, and then Young Evans pouncing on it to score, to take the lead, was just an incredible moment, especially as a young Welsh fan, and at that time Wales was still the third best team in the world. We finished third in the '87 World Cup. So, and Young Evans was one of my personal favourite players. So yeah, that was great. And then you look at, I love the jerseys. I love the fact of the badge, and it didn't have all the sponsorship on it at that point. I also love obviously the Wallabies jersey at that time. But yeah, the '89 Lions was probably the first time. Before that, I'd have been too young, so I was 11 then, and I remember loving that. I loved then the '93 tour, and then obviously mentioned the '97, and then cheering the 2001 tour with friends from university and enjoying that was great. And yeah, in terms of great moments, O'Driscoll's try in 2001.
That was the first test, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first test in Brisbane, I think. And Cornell's try was not as exciting but it was still magic. But yeah, O'Driscoll's try, I remember seeing a fantastic photo of him being tackled just as he's scoring. And if I indulge myself slightly, we played against him a couple of years previously in a university thing, and he got taken off at half time because we were getting walloped. But he was magic then, and we were like, oh yeah, that lad's pretty good. He should do all right. And then within 2 years, he's absolutely starring, scoring hat tricks in Paris and all the rest of it. But yeah, that moment as an adult, and probably, maybe delving into my own psyche a bit here, is when you realise that you're never going to get to that level, even though he's around my age. Just think that person is just operating on a whole new level. So I'll find my level, I'll be happy. But the dream of being a proper pro player of that level, is a way off distance opportunity.
Yeah, interesting. That is one of the things you get growing up, because the game is still small enough where I think most people get to play against like a future superstar at some point. And it's really interesting to see how quickly they sort of go up, how much you recognised it at the time. And yeah, just like you say, just being able to sort of say, well, played against him.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. And randomly, I was very lucky in '97. I went on a trip to South Africa. We caught the last test match with Sean Holly, who was one of our coaches, with Wales colleges combined football, netball, and rugby tour. I'm not sure who devised that idea, but it's a good trip. But we were very lucky. We played the final warm-up game against the Gauteng Lions, as they were then, the under 20s, and played the final warm-up game on Ellis Park before the last match.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was. I'm not sure if I told you that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we took an absolute humping, but I have no idea where the programme is, but I suspect there was some future Springboks in that side. But yeah, luckily then we got access to the change rooms, we were pitch side, and all the Lions cut their sleeves off. So a lot of the lads grabbed the sort of bottom half of the sleeves of the Lions jerseys before they then lost and went past Van der Vestes and scored in the corner. We were all in the corner of that. So yeah, that as a Lions memory, and then also realising, I think by the end of the match, there was about 50,000 people in there, and I realised I was way out of my depth.
Amazing. That's a great Lions memory. Now, what do we think about kind of like the legacy? Because obviously the Lions has got a huge history of, long tours and things like this. What do we think about, for example, the pre-tour games that have happened a couple of times recently? I think there was a game in Cardiff, wasn't there? And was it in Hong Kong as well against the Barbarians? Do you think that adds to the Lions' legacy, or do you think it takes away from it in some way?
I think they try and dress it up that people who might not get a chance to watch the Lions get the opportunity to watch the Lions. I get that angle, but I don't think the reason for doing it is is that again? It's a financially driven decision. The match in Hong Kong. Remember, just the players just losing so much liquid, sweating so much, and with the humidity there. Yeah, I think it detracts from it. I'm a big fan of the midweek game. I used to love it when 2001, I think, that when they played New South Wales Country, and I just think it's just great when they play. When they play the midweek matches, and I think that's part of the legacy of the Lions, really. Rather than a big money-making match in Dubai or Hong Kong, I think Murrayfield's going to host a match. However, if the money that's generated then goes back to the home unions and is pushed back into grassroots rugby, then I've got nothing for that. But I've got a bit of a beam up on it about Fat Cats making a lot of money off the back of it without being reinvested into the men's game. Or is there a chance that there's going to be a women's rugby Lions team? Is that something that's been talked about? But why would that not happen? What a great opportunity to do that, to grow the women's game within that, especially because the brand of the Lions is so strong. And every tour that comes up, they say, is this going to be the last one? Well, it shouldn't be the last one, because it's the pinnacle. Every rugby player who represented the Lions says that's higher than they're playing for the actual national team. So, yeah, no, hopefully there's something in that.
Yeah, and I think that's, as you described it, that example of the New South Wales Country game, that's an example of giving back to the grassroots, but actually on the tour itself. So going out and playing against people who would never get the chance to play against the Lions otherwise, possibly to a part of the country that doesn't necessarily get that amount of rugby. So, as you kind of explained, I can see it both ways as well. But I think those, especially those early tour games, those early tour midweek games are going to be missed, because there's only 2 midweek games on this coming tour in 2001. Like, how do you feel about that?
I think again, you understand where it's come from and the global season we talked about and player welfare, but take enough players and give enough players that opportunity, taking the game to the people, and particularly in South Africa. If ever there was something, you're going to take the game around the country, and the decisions that you hear about where they should play them, because they've got a better opportunity playing in Pretoria, but it's not big enough for playing in Johannesburg at altitude, or then down in Cape Town, because it's the most touristic part of South Africa people go. But I just think, and for someone who used to love looking at his atlas, and it's got I used to love the fact they go to random places and then you learn about it, and then the information about the stadium that they're playing in. And you watch some of the '93 tour to New Zealand, and you see people stood on grass banks in New Zealand watching it. I loved it. And then I don't know, the New Zealand universities, I think I saw a match. I think I've watched a lot of random old match run-throughs on Facebook in the lockdown. But yeah, it was a great match in New Zealand. I think Joe Schmidt was playing in one game I was watching not too many weeks ago, but I never had any idea where he played. And that mystery of New Zealand, South Africa, and Australia particularly, and then occasionally Japan and then Australia back in the day. I think that's been lost by the globalization a little bit. I used to love it when the '84 Wallabies came to Wales and they did the Grand Slam on their tour, but you didn't see them then for a couple of years, and then these new names come up. But now, because you can just watch Super Rugby and all the rest of it, and how many times a year New Zealand can play Australia, how many times can New Zealand and England seem to miss each other, but because it's a financial decision rather than let's have a look at this across 5 years, when should these matches be? And it goes to your point about the global season. But no, the original point about the Lions midweek matches, I love it. I love it when players emerge, but almost then now you're saying, no, we've got 2 squads, and unless something exceptional happens, you're in that squad, and there's someone emerges. Remember Will Greenwood in '97 came out of nowhere, and if he hadn't got knocked out, he looked like a shoo-in for the last test, Who knows? Yeah,
for sure. I completely agree. It is a shame, but unfortunately, there's just not that much space in the calendar anymore, is there? And another example of that is that there are only 5 warm-up games before the Test series, so it's only 8 games in total. And again, that gives less scope for people working their way through the tour, you know, getting there, maybe not being fancied at the start, but getting a starting Test spot. Like, for example, Paul Wallace in 97. You know, everybody thought that Leonard was going to have that tighted berth, and Wallace came through and fully earned it during the course of the tour. It's a tough one, isn't it? Where does it go?
Yeah, no, and then I don't know how people react and how it changes. Remember 2005, how quickly things changed. Gareth Thomas ended up captain, I think, didn't he, after the O'Driscoll incident with the Milan Umang tackle. But as they say, the 2005, one of my favourite Lions memories is like flipped around 180 degrees. Dan Carter's emergence, which fits in on point, but we hadn't heard of him playing, so you hear murmurings of there's something great emerging, and then Carter's performance, I think in the second Test it was, which I think is about a 7-minute clip on Facebook. I say 7 minutes. I've watched it loads of times. It's one of the most just mesmerising individual performances, and I can't think of too many like that. And to do it against the Lions, I'd imagine if you ask this question to an All Black, that's one of the sort of main moments in his entire career, to be able to do that on that stage against the British and Irish Lions. Amazing.
Yeah, to win the series as well, you know, like it was that crucial game in the middle there. And I remember that.
I think Stuart Barnes has probably still got the wallpaper on his wall. I remember that I've never heard anyone so gushing in his praise of an individual, and a man who's an absolute wordsmith doing it as well. I think that was one of his greatest moments as a co-commentator, even though he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I don't think he cares too much about that.
No, for sure. Now then, what about just, you know, bring this back towards sort of amateur rugby? I think the Lions is almost, along with the Barbarians, the last bastion of kind of amateur rugby being connected to the professional game, because the amount of supporters that go and follow the Lions. What are your thoughts on that? And you've already told us one example of following the Lions yourself. Have you been on any other tours?
I was on the 1997 tour. Was the tour, obviously, I said about we went on 2001. Then obviously I got it because the amount of times I've heard stories from our friends at the old Colfians who were on that tour, but I was still just at university, and then I became a teacher. So the opportunity to go, as I mentioned right at the outset, it just never presented itself. Unless I had the funds to go for the last Test, it was never something that was going to be an opportunity for me. And so this one, 2021, has been on my radar for a long time. The age that I'm at currently, hopefully financially can afford to go, because it's a huge expense, and I know that some people, well, they save for years and years and years to be able to go. And so, you know, so certainly 97 was my only real taste of it, but 2021 is shaping up to be a belter again. And if it goes ahead as planned, then yeah, I'm planning on being there for a large chunk of it.
Yeah, perfect. I was there in 2017 for the entire tour down in New Zealand, which was just an incredible experience. And I love the whole thing. But I think, if anything, I enjoyed the early games the most, because there was just this feeling of, you know, it was a difficult tour, obviously, for the touring party. Not all the games went our way, for sure. But there was this feeling of just a growing momentum and like kinship and coming together, and it just built and built slowly. Now, obviously, doing the whole thing, I kind of organised all that for myself, which was a lot of work. Like, is there anything that you could help people with, Stuart, if people wanted to go to South Africa in 2021?
Yeah, well, so one of my main roles currently is as director of a company called MSG Tours, which had a good contingent go out to New Zealand to sort of travel around following the group out there. We are hoping to be able to take a large number of people who want to go out to South Africa in 2021 and follow the group and follow the matches that wherever the Lions are. But yeah, you know, it's important to say we we are not an official agent of the British and Irish Lions, but we organise a trip for people who want to go out there. We are taking people to where the test venues are going to happen and the other matches. And yeah, if anyone is interested in going, wants more information, then yeah, I'm an easy person to find and contact. And MSG Tours has got all the information around what we're doing in South Africa in 2021.
And are those tours, are they kind of strict, this is what we're doing, or can people make them a bit bespoke?
People have got the option to make it bespoke. People have a fixed idea. I was chatting to someone recently who said they want to go out for, say, 4 or 5 days, and then I think the attraction of the South Africa Lions tour is what that offers, as opposed to Australia and New Zealand. So people, yeah, we've got some really fantastic set itineraries, and we like to. Our motto as a company is delivering the unexpected. We're doing some stuff in Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland. So we've got some cool bits and bobs going on there, and yeah, the itineraries are diverse. And the good thing about the Lions tour is that there's something for everyone. If you want to follow a certain path and you want to scope out, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, then you can have a look at that. But yeah, if people want to think outside the box, do things slightly differently, but still retaining a lot of the magic surrounding it, then yeah, we're definitely someone that they should be sort of getting in contact with.
Awesome, great stuff. Okay, so just to sum up, really, the Lions is a wonderful thing. We're so happy that it's going to be going ahead in 2021. You're going to be there, Stuart. I know I'm going to definitely be there. So just one final question. What would you, as a rugby player or supporter, like for Christmas?
Personally, I think cohesion more than anything else amongst the various unions, amongst the leagues, and I think a fewer fixtures on the rugby calendar, but retaining that high level of quality and thinking about player welfare, not thinking about necessarily commercial gains, which are obvious and needed and absolutely necessary. But I think treating people, players, as people and looking after them and their welfare, I think is more important than anything. So having that as the sort of top point on getting cohesion, and then finding a system that works best for everything. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but finding something that works best and actually looking at things from other people's point of view is just a general point in life, I think. And people have their way of looking at things and they're not open to consider other people's point of views. And I think rugby embarrasses itself in looking at the way it's dealt with, and people hark back to amateur days and amateur people running it, and then professional people saying, I'm going to take this product and make it something different. But there's got to be a harmony somewhere within that, and people have got to be sensible enough to listen to what other people are saying. So yeah, certain cohesion amongst all people involved, and I think that's one of my favourite things. We obviously talking about the Lions is that the Japan World Cup. I think the legacy of the Japan World Cup is something that has been lost a little bit because we're caught in this COVID moment. But what the Japanese brought to things is so important, and how we integrate them and their ideas and the way they went about it, how their fans behave, how they organise the stadium, the atmosphere out there. I think there's loads that can be learned rather than thinking there's only a certain number of main players within World Rugby.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all you want for Christmas, is it? That's all?
Oh, no. A tangerine.
Oh, happy days. Yeah, well, I'm right with you on that, mate, 100%. So lastly, if people want to get hold of you or anything to do with MSG Tours, what's the best way that people can do that?
They can go via our website on msgtours.com, and then if people want to contact me, Stuart Lock, I'm on Facebook, I can be contacted. But yeah, I'm a pretty easy guy to get hold of. And yeah, if anyone's passing through the Basque region, then they want to pick me up on some of the opinions that I've offered, rather than trolling me online. And I'd happily wear my mask and sit socially distant away from them in a cafe and throw some views around. No problem.
Perfect, brilliant. Okay, thanks very much, mate. And thank you guys for listening, whether it's now live on Facebook or whether it's via podcast feed or on YouTube, where this will be available as well. If you've enjoyed it, then please tell your mates, let them know about it, put them onto the Amateur Rugby Podcast and our new Hot Topics series. We spoke about some of our favourite Lions memories. Love to hear some of yours as well. So write those in the comments below and we'll have a good old chat about that. And that brings us to an end. Stuart, thank you very much.
Oh, cheers, Tim. Lovely. Thanks for inviting me on. Hot Topics. Who would have ever thought I'd feature in a Hot Topics as well? Easy hype. I'm adding that to my LinkedIn profile straight away.
Good man. Okay, bye everybody.